All right, guys, here we go. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at devotions for today. There we go. All right, devotions for today come to us from the book of Psalms, chapter 19. We hear the following. The 19th Psalm is a prophecy. It speaks of how the gospel would spread to the entire world, as far as the heavens extend. Day and night it would be spread, not only in Hebrew, but in all languages. Just as the sun shines and gives warmth everywhere, so also with this new law of the gospel, it will enlighten and teach all people, comforting and purifying them. In this way, the old law is removed, which was not so pure, bright, lovely, or imperishable. Hear the words of Psalm 19. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky proclaims his handiwork. Day to day it pours out speech, and night to night reveals knowledge. There is no speech, nor are there words, whose voice is not heard. Their measuring line goes out to all the earth, and their words to the ends of the world. In them he has sent a tent for the sun, which comes out like a bridegroom leaving his chamber, and like a strong man runs its course with joy. Its rising is from the ends of the heavens, and its circuit to the ends of them. But there is nothing hidden from its heat. The law of the Lord is perfect, reviving the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. The precepts of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandments of the Lord are pure, enlightening the eyes. The fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. The just decrees of the Lord are true, and the righteous altogether. More to be desired are they than gold, even much fine gold. Sweeter also than honey and drippings of the honeycomb. Moreover, by them is your servant warned. In keeping them there is great reward. Who can discern his errors? Declare me innocent from hidden faults. Keep back your servant also from presumptuous sin. Let them not have dominion over me. Then I shall be blameless and innocent of great transgression. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Let's pray. Blessed Lord, who caused our holy scriptures to be written for our learning, grant us so to hear them, read, mark, learn, and inwardly digest them, that we might embrace and ever hold fast to the blessed hope of everlasting life, which you have given us through our Savior, Jesus Christ, who lives and reigns with you in the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen. All right, so yesterday we started taking a look at some of these cities. We're going to want to do the same. So let me get this set up here. Let's see here. I'm trying to remember, where did we leave off? Somewhere. Was it Samaria? So now the question today is, where did we leave off?
We left off with
Sychar?
Yeah,
we were right here.
I think we might have done Samaria.
Yeah, we ended up
Samaria. Okay, so yeah, Sychar, remember, right? We've got Jacob's well, the woman at the well. That'll be the story we come back to that at. So we were in and around here, Samaria, right? Yeah, that would help, wouldn't it? Get you that. All right. So Samaria, capital of the region of Samaria, right? You can see it. It's a little bit farther down the mountain range from Sychar there. As we take a look at it, let's see. So we have the town. You can see kind of that outline. I think I might have briefly touched on this yesterday, as the case may be. You've got the colonnaded streets and the row of shops, all ruined. Take a look down here, right? You can see along this Roman colonnaded street, you have these rows of shops, and my kind of cursor is at. That's this section of shops there on the right-hand side. That's what we have. Where people would have bought and sold goods. My guess is right? At the time of Christ, that whole street probably would have been lined with shops, but over time, things kind of fell into disuse. Right? So let's take a look and at some new stuff, right? So we're going to see Christ going to Samaria quite frequently, but shifting gears, let's take a look at the city of Bethany. So Bethany is kind of like a suburb of Jerusalem. The way that I kind of like to portray it so that you guys can interface with it a little bit better is it's kind of like the cities of Kohler or the cities of Plymouth are to Sheboygan. And if you think kind of about how big Sheboygan is here, how many streets we have, how our town city is laid out, we can use it as an analogy of Jerusalem in the first century. But as you travel outside the city limits a little bit, right, you get a lot of these other little smaller towns, Kohler, Sheboygan Falls, Plymouth, even farther out, cities like Waldo, etc. And that's really what we're dealing with when we talk about the city of Bethany. So it's down the hill from Jerusalem, but it's important for us because that's where Jesus' friends, Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, all live. Right? They live in the city of Bethany. So when Christ goes up to Jerusalem, quite frequently, he kind of crashes at their place. And it's a quick and easy walk then. Takes probably an hour or so, depending on how fast you go, to make it from there to the Temple Mount. Because you can see on the left-hand side of the picture, right, you've got the Temple Mount there, where Jerusalem is situated. And then you can see the city of Bethany here kind of on the right-hand side. As we go. But again, like I keep reiterating over and over again, when we talk about these towns, we're not talking about, massive metropolitan areas. We're talking about a handful of houses, a couple of streets, a couple hundred people, right? So we have the city of Bethany. What about Jerusalem? This one's a little more important, right? We kind of hit on this when we did our prophecy and fulfillment a little bit, right? You remember Jerusalem pops up in the scriptures all the time, right? In the Old Testament, you refer to it as the city of Salem, where Abraham visits, Melchizedek, the king, right? The priest. You can see it situated here, right? This is a modern day map, kind of at the perimeter between the West Bank and the nation of Israel. Hasn't moved for a couple thousand years. Right? This is a good kind of a cross section. You can see from the perspective taken here, the Dome of the Rock in the background. That's that big old golden thing, right? That's one of the Muslims' holy sites. One of the locations where, if I remember right, Muhammad ascended into the heavens, as it were. But what I really want to point out, though, is on the right-hand side, you can see this great wall here. Just for openers, anybody know what that wall is? The Wailing Wall, yeah. Do you remember why they call it the Wailing Wall? Not because it separated the people. It was a good guess. Yeah, something got knocked down and they were sad and cried. So what would have gotten knocked down here that would have made the Jews sad so they cried? The other walls, okay. We're getting there. The other walls of what structure? The temple, yeah. So this structure here, right, we call it the Wailing Wall, is the last remaining structure from the, we call it Herod's temple. That remains, right? The Romans get tired of the Jewish shenanigans in about 70 AD, and they come in and they completely annihilate the temple, as you can see from this picture, right? So this is the Temple Mount area. Again, you can see the Dome of the Rock kind of there in the middle, as the case may be there. That the platform in the area where the Dome of the Rock is at is pretty close to about the size that the temple building itself is. So the complex itself actually stretches that entire rectangular section. But if you actually take a look in your packet on the back, actually the very back page, was it, whatever, it's page 15. But it's just a brief sketch of the Jerusalem temple, which would have been the temple at the time of Christ there. If you take that temple structure and put it in, this little square-ish area where we have the Dome of the Rock, like that's what we're talking about when we talk about the temple, the building of the temple, right? And then the whole rest of that rectangle is the temple area. So I don't want to get too far into it right now, but like this is where the priest would have been, and then this is where like the money changers would have been when we talk about Christ flipping tables and driving out the money changers and stuff like that. Happened a little farther out. All right. So Jerusalem, right, vastly important because it gives us the ending of Christ's life, right? In addition to being the site of the temple and a bunch of other stuff. As you can kind of see here too, I like this map because this brown little wall here, that's called Josephus' second wall, as it goes around. This is the temple, or the city of Jerusalem at the time of Christ. The little green additions, those were added on shortly after his death. But I like to point out a couple of things. First off, you see Herod Antipas's palace here, right? That's the Herod who was ruling Galilee during Christ's execution. You also have Herod's palace there a little bit to the side, which is where Pontius Pilate frequently stayed when he came up to Jerusalem. You can also see the house of Caiaphas, the high priest, down there a little bit towards the south, which is, I think, more a guess than anything based off of what we know. But Christ would have kind of been hanging out in this that little triangle-ish area, right? As the case may be. Sweet. Any other questions? Let's come to Jerusalem. Yeah. So shift gears to Bethlehem. Bethlehem, I think its importance kind of goes without saying. It's where Jesus was born, right? The thing that I find quite fascinating about it, you can see kind of on this map, right? Jerusalem, Bethlehem. You have kind of an idea of distance. But the thing that I find quite fascinating about this is Bethlehem is at a lower elevation than Jerusalem, right? So think about this for a second, right? Mary just gave birth to Jesus, and then about a week later, she and Joseph and the baby Jesus make the trek from Bethlehem to Jerusalem so Jesus can get circumcised, which I don't want to jump into biology too much in this lecture, but that's kind of a rough time. At any rate, they make the trek, right? So you have kind of an idea of the city of Bethlehem. Again, we're not talking about a big city, but a little quiet shepherding village that would have been filled to the seams in the first century due to Caesar Augustus having a census, right? What about the city of Emmaus? Well, the city of Emmaus, right, that becomes important for us because it is the city where some of the followers of Christ are going right after his resurrection, right? You've probably heard the story of Christ with the disciples on the road to Emmaus. And this is the city they were going. Now, if you notice, so you have the Sea of Galilee, right? It splits off. You've got the Via Maris that runs down this way. And you can see this kind of dashed line, hopefully a little bit here, that runs through Jerusalem. We call it the King's Highway. But if you notice down here on top of Jerusalem, right, there's a little dotted line, and I'm sure in the back it's a little bit rough to see, but there's a dotted line that runs from Jerusalem down to Emmaus. And that is one of the cross-section roads that you could use to get from the King's Highway to the Via Maris, depending on how you needed to travel through the land. But Emmaus is kind of the stopover point between the two. It's almost halfway in between. But it becomes, right, the site where Christ appears to a couple of his disciples. The city itself has pretty much fallen into disuse, but this is the best picture I could find of it when I was putting this presentation together. This is actually one of the bathing pools from Emmaus where people would have got cleaned up.
Looks nice. Oh, really good.
Yeah, it's got a significant amount of algae and the like there, but pretty little area. Moving on. Ephraim, city of Ephraim, sits to the north. You can see it kind of on this map. Oops, too far high. Ephraim, right there, north of Jerusalem. Again, along that King's Highway line that we talk about. This is where Christ is at when he gets the notification that Lazarus has died. And he hangs out here in the city of Ephraim for 3 days after he hears Lazarus has died in order to make a point. All right, and we'll talk about this when we get to the section, but the city of Ephraim becomes important because that's where Christ is at. Until he decides to go down to Bethany and heal Lazarus. So again, right, I mean, you can see kind of the city. Some of the ancient ruins there in the foreground. The city itself is still active because it's really close to Jerusalem. Not as close as Bethany, but still a quick, easy ride over. And there you go. Right, Caesarea Philippi. Caesarea Philippi. Again, one of the most northern cities there. Actually, it's the farthest north that Christ is going to go in his teaching ministry. Caesarea Philippi was a pagan city. It becomes important for us because it is here where Christ gets Peter's confession of faith, right? He talks about how the gates of Hades will not overcome them, and the like therein. So when we talk about this, right, we're going to be talking about the gates of Hades a little bit later on, but this is a massive pagan place that we're going to be looking at over time here. Let's see. Should be able to squeeze in one more for the bell, I think. Bethsaida. Bethsaida is one of the cities on the Sea of Galilee, right there in the north. Again, another fishing village. It is a place where we're going to see Christ healing a blind man who is at a pool. Again, fishing, massive trade for Bethsaida. And again, another town. You can see the exposed ruins there, right? You can even see kind of the city wall as it works its way around the perimeter here, going forth. Tiny little town. All right, questions on any of that? Making sense? Sounds good. All right. The bell's going to ring here in about a minute or two, so we're going to go ahead and hold there for today and go from there. All right.